Have you ever noticed or had the feeling that there are always some young people around you who, on the surface, don't earn much but are able to quickly buy several houses? Normally, I'm not one to promote this kind of approach, but if you look at our clients, for example, many of them start looking for a second property as soon as their first one is rented out. So today, I'm going to teach you exactly how I guide my clients and why these people are able to so quickly build up a portfolio of properties. Once you learn this method, you too can get ahead of your peers and overtake them on the curve. Many of our clients, after mastering this approach, are able to buy 3 properties in just 2 years on average. It's almost like they're playing with cheat codes. If you don't want to fall behind your peers, you absolutely have to watch this video to the end and give it a like, comment, and share. The video is a bit long, but I truly believe it could change your life. Let's start with the conclusion, which comes down to 3 points. First, you need to buy at the right point in the cycle. Second, you must purchase properties that will appreciate in value. Third, and most importantly, your rental income needs to be able to cover your mortgage. About 30% of our clients share the same profile. They've been living in Australia for many years, are accustomed to life here, and have already paid off a significant portion of their home mortgage, with the principal amount greatly reduced. Then they realize that buying the right house can yield considerable appreciation, and that their salaries simply can't keep up with the rate at which house values are increasing. At the same time, they also notice that almost all cities in Australia are still experiencing price increases, even in today's high interest rate environment. This includes many places where the economy, especially in Asia, isn't doing well. In other words, young people from New Zealand are flocking to Australia, and the same is happening with Europeans. They feel that this momentum is still quite strong, right? Meanwhile, they look at the money sitting in their offset accounts and aren't sure what to do with it. So today I want to sincerely share with everyone how I help them handle this situation. After obtaining the consent of the person involved, let's listen to a real story. The person in question is John. He didn't engage in any speculation, used very little leverage, and is a very steady and successful case. When he came to me 3 years ago, he had $300,000 in cash and his home base was in Sydney. To help him, let me start with the conclusion. In 2 years, he bought a total of 3 properties, but only spent $300,000 in total on down payments. All 3 properties are in Melbourne, and even in today's high interest rate environment, they are all self-sustaining. When he came to us, I remember his exact words were that the luckiest thing in his life was that he had, somewhat cluelessly, bought a property in Sydney back then, and unexpectedly its value doubled in just 7 years. However, he also realized that it was luck back then. Now that he's older and his family has more savings, he has started to seriously consider finding other ways to invest, to increase his passive income and grow his wealth. 3 years ago, we helped him buy his first property. We went straight for a bargain and bought a house in Carrum Downs, Melbourne, off-market, which already had conditions suitable for subletting. We got it for just $600,000. That year, it was immediately split into 2 units and rented out for a total of $700 per week. The previous owner had moved to a nursing home, and the house was in very poor condition. We helped him renovate the kitchen, bathroom, flooring, and did the painting, basically a full refresh, which cost a total of $40,000. 3 years ago, we bought it for $600,000. After renovations, the bank valued it at $750,000. 3 months later, he cashed out. His $120,000 down payment, $30,000 stamp duty, and $40,000 renovations totaled $190,000. Post-renovation, he cashed out $120,000, calculated as 75% of $750,000 minus 80% of $600,000. At that time, the weekly rent of $700 was enough to cover the interest, so for his first property, listen carefully, he basically secured his footing in Melbourne with a down payment of just $70,000, or you could say he got in at the bottom for his first property in Melbourne. Because things went much more smoothly than he had imagined, he was just like many of our clients. Once the house was rented out, he did the math and realized he still had about $200,000 on hand, so he immediately started looking for his second property. At the beginning of 2024, we helped him buy a property in Cranbourne in the far southeast of Melbourne. After experiencing the benefits of renovation, he went even bigger with his second property. We helped him purchase a large 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house for $650,000, and he legally spent $60,000 on renovations. After the renovations, he was able to rent it out for $1,000 per week. Let me add a side note here. In our team, we really enjoy doing renovations and remodeling. For us, it's quite normal to sublet a house and have the total rent exceed $1,000, and it's always done legally and in compliance with regulations. Now, his house is already at $1,200 per week this year. You can take a look. Roughly speaking, the rents for these houses of ours, when you see these 1/2/3/ marks, it means we've converted the house into multiple units and then rented them out. If you add up all these rents, you'll find that having the total exceed $1,000 is actually quite normal. But to get back to the point, this house hasn't been refinanced, so the down payment plus stamp duty was $150,000, and another $60,000 was spent on renovations, making a total of $210,000. At this point, our task was accomplished. With a budget of $300,000 in cash, we helped him buy 2 properties. In particular, the second one even has a positive cash flow. Time moved on to 2025. In terms of active income, John continued to get promoted and receive raises. The 2 Melbourne properties he had invested in earlier were generating increasingly positive cash flow, which further boosted his confidence. By the beginning of 2025, he was already paying 45% tax on his rental income. What had been sweet as honey for him in the first year had turned into poison by 2025. So during our follow-up meetings every 6 months, we immediately decided that he should continue to expand his portfolio. However, the strategic positioning for the third property was different. He needed to pursue negative gearing, so we helped him find a 1,200 square meter plot of land in the Far East, which could be developed into 5 to 6 townhouses in the future. After purchasing it for $1 million, we deliberately guided him to utilize negative gearing. So now, with these 3 properties, the total is about even. Currently, the cash flow is breaking even, which meets his needs, and his equity, his net worth, is steadily increasing. Because think about it, the total value of his 3 properties is now around $2.6 million, and with an annual appreciation of 10%, that's $260,000 in capital gains. If you don't sell, you don't have to pay tax on it. As John himself put it, when he's awake, he earns $260,000 a year before tax, and even when he's asleep, his properties are still making him passive income of $260,000 a year. I hope today's video has given you some inspiration. John too took 3 years and a down payment of $300,000 to go from being part of the working class to now becoming an experienced investor with an investment portfolio worth nearly $3 million. If you're also interested and want to build your portfolio early in your career, feel free to come talk to us. I sincerely hope that from this story, you can see that in the early stages of investing, it's even more important to buy the right assets. You must understand the importance of acquiring high-growth assets with positive cash flow, because only in this way can you steadily and with lower risk build your investment portfolio step by step.